Swearing in. Call to order.
Call to order. Thank you. Welcome. I'd like to open the May 17th regular trustee meeting at 6:34 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Asherle?
Here.
Swidek?
Here.
Augustine?
Here. And I'll have you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome. I feel like my pastor, we're here more than once every year. You guys are welcome to come back anytime. Just for the high school students that are in the room and online, you are here for an AP government project, is my understanding. There are agendas that will be available to you in the room. If you are online, if you have any questions and you need the agenda or a form signed, please feel free to email one of the trustees. Our contact information is on the website at
twp.org.
Thank you. All right. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of April 4th and April 19th, emergency meeting of May 5th, special meeting minutes of April 28th and May 4th, and special meeting work session minutes for April 19th and April 26th. Seconded by Asherle. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
We'll sign those later.
Thank you. All right, we are going to start the evening with a very special nomination that became an award. Our 2022 Citizen of the Year has been nominated several times over the years due to her ability to see a need and fill it. Some of the things our Citizen of the Year has been involved in the past 50 years include Hinckley's Welcome Wagon, founding member, charter president, and historian of the Hinckley Women's Club, where she has been vice president, chairperson of scholarships, Easter egg hunt, social and Santa visit programs, and liaison to the Hinckley Chamber of Commerce. Served as the vice president of the Highland Foundation and later on the foundation's grant award committee and fundraiser committee. Lifetime member of the Hinckley Historical Society, member of the Richfield Historical Society, member of the American Red Cross disaster team serving Medina, Summit, and Portage counties, member and tour guide for the Friends of Crowell and Halakaya at Richfield Heritage Preserve and Rising Valley Park, red coat and tour guide at Playhouse Square, secretary and member of the Rocky River Watershed Council, secretary and member of the Hinckley Chamber of Commerce. Believe it or not, I'm not done. As one nominee wrote, she seems to be involved behind the scenes in almost all events around Hinckley, helping to coalesce teams of volunteers with her enthusiasm, communication, and reliable follow-through. A strong leader needs her strong support. Her perseverance, creativity, and contributions to our community are surmountable. She has been described as the following in nomination letters to the Citizen of the Year Committee: boundless energy and a commitment to educating and preserving the history of Hinckley and the surrounding area, dedicated to preserving, maintaining the quality of our environment, a person who has contributed so much to the community by being reliable and enthusiastic volunteer and supporting so many leaders' efforts, regularly volunteers at events, brings cheer wherever she turns up, ubiquitous nonprofit volunteer, local business patron, and all-around Hinckley ambassador and advocate, passionate in all her organizations and continues to assist in guiding Hinckley Women's Club members with her wisdom and thoughts. A heart as big as hers is well deserving of the honor. An amazing, energetic, inquisitive, and caring person, a consummate question asker and teacher. Our last nomination letter read, as people come and go, Heather Licardi is here to stay, a community treasure who should be recognized for her embodiment of Hinckley's small town, big hearts motto as the 2022 Hinckley Citizen of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present Hinckley Township's 2022 Citizen of the Year, Ms. Heather Lacardi. Can we come over to her? You want me over there?
You will stick this on the wall, and you will be there for the next year. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Okay, I would like to just, I'm so proud, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so proud that my friends and neighbors and acquaintances and people thought enough of me to nominate me for this, and I am just pleased as punch to be here. Small town big hearts, it works that way. I want to thank the committee that headed by Melissa that sorted through all that information and picked me out. That would be Marge and Pat and Kathy and Steve and Carl. Yeah, thank you so much. I have spent I also want to thank my husband, Dennis. If you don't know Dennis, this is Mr. Extrovert. Miss Congeniality, I guess. Anytime that I've ever asked, and we've been together for longer than God, I think. Wow.
22 years.
Yeah. Anytime I ask, Dennis, is it okay if I do this? And he'll always say, hey, yeah, knock yourself out. Can I help? So to have a best friend like that is really cool. So I spent a lot of my time in education. What I taught mostly, all the way from elementary school up through college, and including parent groups and staff development and presentations at conferences. And what I mostly taught was behaviors. And now you're looking at me like, she taught what? What do you do? How do you do that? Those are affective skills you have to actually do in order to and feel in order to be to get them. And I took a lot of those. I guess bottom line, I took a lot of those skills and kind of ingested them as my own. And that's one of the reasons I got here. I'd like to leave you with my words of wisdom. Life is not a dress rehearsal. If you don't remember anything else I've said, remember that. It's not a dress rehearsal. Thank you so much for this.
Congratulations. Women's Club leaves, I'd like to make a resolution to proclamation, whereas the Hinckley Women's Club has existed for more than 40 years and has committed themselves to building an organization that would be dedicated to serving social and service needs in the community. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club members of the original charter executive board established in May 1981 were President Heather Lacardi, Vice President Cheryl Velastic, Secretary Alberta Walry, Treasurer Kathy Mason. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club, together with the nucleus of community-oriented active members, gave of their time and talent as the Hinckley Women's Club grew. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club hosts annual community activities such as the Easter egg hunt bringing joy to children in Hinckley. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club provides 2 annual scholarships to Hinckley residents to assist with furthering their education for a post-high school graduate program or trade program. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club serves as volunteers for Buzzard Day, the Hinckley Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony, and Hinckley Halloween. Whereas the Hinckley Women's Club Philanthropy has provided for those in need during the holidays. The club is full of positive role models who display perseverance and quiet leadership that make our community stronger. Now, therefore, be resolved on the 17th of May, 2022 by this Board of Trustees of Hinckley Township, County of Medina, and State of Ohio, do hereby recognize and honor the dedicated service of the Hinckley Women's Club. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Sweattick. And we get a roll call?
Asherle? Yes. Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes. Congratulations. And President, Trustee Asherle, you've got to come up here. Come on. The new president. Our old. Current, not old. Because you're beautiful and you know it. They're just here for us. Yeah, they're usually up here.
Oh, that's right. Okay, all right, everybody. Pictures? One more. Smile here. Okay. If I have it, I guess you should be up here too.
Yeah, Mark, Patty.
So, yeah, this way.
And I'm gonna get this to you as Congratulations, Women's Club. Okay. Congratulations. Thank you.
When you come to the end of a perfect day, then out in the night I will come. Good night, good
I'm gonna
night.
see what happens.
Sweethearted soul, the angels watch you rest.
Hey, guys. I love it when Heather's there.
You did a good job.
Thank you very much. Reading a lot. Have a good night. Marge. Marge. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, Marge. Okay. So we're going to move right along. Trustee Asherle, did you want to move to Bethany, or do you have folks that you want to swear in since we've got guests here?
Do we want to do the swearing in?
It's up to you guys, however you like to do it.
Much to cover with the Bethany.
That
Yeah.
way we can make the motion whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Chief, did you want to make the motion or you
For
want to?
the swearing in?
Yeah.
Sure, I will.
Okay.
First, I'd like to request to hire Cameron Botts and Matt Morella at a rate of $14.35 per hour and a 1-year probationary period contingent passing their physical and background checks. Cameron is coming with 5 years of Cleveland EMS, just finished the fire academy. Matt is currently enrolled in paramedic school and will be finishing up in the next several months. Both are very eager to come on. So I'd like to get them sworn in and then send them back with the guys so they can start getting their turnout gear and everything like that ready to go at the station. So gentlemen, come on up. If we want to swear in. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Second.
Asherle? Yes. Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes.
Monique,
Okay.
you have the,
I have them.
yep,
You guys, it's going to be the photo opportunity.
one at a time. So,
Like to do it by.
yeah, from the American flag. Please.
Wherever you guys.
Okay.
Over here.
Okay.
We don't have to move over here yet.
One at a time.
Just
They want to see you, so you stand over here in the corner. Stand in the corner. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Cameron Bott,
I, Cameron Bott,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of a volunteer fireman for Hinckley Township
of volunteer fireman for Hinckley Township
in Medina County,
and Medina County,
state of Ohio,
state of Ohio,
during my service in the fire department.
during my service in the fire department.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations and welcome to Hinckley.
Thank you.
Matthew, is it Matt or Matthew? Matt. Okay. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Is it Mariella?
Marinella.
Marinella?
Yeah.
Okay. I, Matthew Marinella,
I, Matthew Marinella,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the state of Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of a volunteer fireman
faithfully discharge the duties of a volunteer fireman for
for Hinckley Township
Hinckley Township
in Medina County,
and Medina County,
state of Ohio,
state of Ohio,
during my service in the fire department.
during my service in the fire department.
Congratulations.
Welcome. Welcome to Hinckley Fire.
Oh, with me too? Yeah. I'll get my picture. Very nice. I've met Cameron before. This is the first time I'm meeting it. You're both so tall. Thank you. Good. Okay.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
I'm not that short.
Okay.
My
So- Bethany, do we have you on virtually?
Oh, no, Bethany's not here.
Oh, she's not here?
No, Bethany, yeah, I don't know how that got in the agenda,
Oh.
but I didn't know if we wanted to address this now. I know Chief kind of wants to get on the road, so
Okay.
I thought I could do the CRA stuff
Under you?
later when I'm doing my stuff.
That's no problem at all. Perfect. Okay, so we will move right along to Chief Stetner with police. Do you have anything?
I
for
do
the
not.
agenda? He has nothing for the agenda, yet he's sitting here smiling.
That's why he's smiling.
Does anyone from the audience have anything for Police Chief Stetner? You're free to go, sir.
I can go?
Mhm. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Rosenbach from Fire Department.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First item is the quarterly report, January 1 through the end of March. We did 150 EMS related runs, 48 fire calls, for a total in the first 3 months of 198 calls. The previous year to date, we did 160 calls. 70% of our calls were EMS. We had 10 fire calls, 140 EMS calls, and then 48 false alarms, service good intent calls, meaning tree branches down, power lines down, things that don't fall under the state reporting of a fire. Our average emergency response time was 7 minutes, 50 seconds. We had 35 overlapping calls. We gave mutual aid 17 times, 5 for building fires, 1 for motor vehicle fire, 3 MVAs, and 8 EMS calls. We received it 8 times for 2 building fires, 3 motor vehicle accidents, and 3 EMS calls. We transported 36 patients to Brunswick Cleveland Clinic, 15 to Medina, Maine, 8 to Southwest Brunswick, 7 to Parma, 30 to Southwest Maine. We had 9 lift assists. We went to Metro Brecksville 3 times, Metro Cleveland 3 times. We had 25 refusals, and we did take 1 child to Akron Children's. We had 6 traumas, 2 chest pains, 1 STEMI, which is basically a heart attack. We had 3 stroke alerts, 1 septic alert. We had 6 that were transported to behavior evals. We had 2 cardiac arrests. We also had 8 that were either suspected overdose or some type of ingestion. Assistant Chief Gerbasi with assistance from Fire Inspector Tom Pollard did 14 occupancy inspections. Gabe reviewed 6 plan reviews. He did 3 hood inspections. We inspected 12 of our Knox boxes and 27 of our residential Knox boxes. We had 515 hours in the first 3 months, 75 EMS training hours, 101 pump hours. We did 20 hours of rescue, 50 hours of documentation since we switched to the new EMS documentation, 50 over vehicle training, 125 hours with fire inspector training, and then fire ground operations, we did 93 0.5 hours for operation fire ground stretching hose line, search and rescue ladders, stuff like that. And we had 18 calls into the station, which, as I always say, report, please call 911 and not the station. Our members may be out on call as the fastest way to ensure to get 911 services, just to call 911. I understand some think that their call is not an emergency, but some calls that are called in, we had another one that was called in for an actual fire. So I strongly suggest calling 911. That's all I have in the annual report. The next item is request to move firefighter EMT Noah Millman from $14.35 to his full pay rate of $15.76 per hour per the organizational minutes, effective immediately.
Second. Or sorry, so moved.
Second.
Asherle?
Yes.
Whittick?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes.
The last was we had a levy discussion a couple times. I just spoke to Martha for some outstanding reports and everything else. I know sounded like she spoke to each of the trustees at one point in time, and she gave you the same paperwork I have. The whole plan for the levy has always been to add that third man staffing. Martha ran the reports. If you would share what you ran, Martha, because you had the best understanding, because you just explained it to me and what you looked up.
Sure. We've had several different alternatives to staffing, obviously pending the available finances. And in conversations today with several trustees, this afternoon, last week I provided Excel spreadsheets breaking down into 5 different categories, the years 2019 through the current year. And it broke down into 5 categories: total appropriations annually, wage-related expenses, which include Medicare, Social Security, workman's comp, and salaries, training, minor equipment and operating expenses, and then major equipment, which would be apparatuses, turnout gear, significant expenditures of gear. And so what we concentrate, those have all remained fairly steady.
Did you email that to Jen that she can show it?
Well, I emailed it to Lisa. You said Lisa.
Or Lisa.
Proctoring.
Yeah. Sorry. No, Jen's here.
I did.
Lisa, did you want her to share the screen?
Yeah, she can share the screen on the graphs I did. So this afternoon, just in order to, so the graph up there, you see the first one with the different colors. That shows our increases in revenue over that same 4 period of time. So you can see that over the year, and this is a cumulative, you see that levy kick in around 2018, the renewal that's on the ballot coming up in November, or that should be, or will be, I assume, on the ballot pending discussion by the trustees. 5-year renewal levy, it's a 1 mil levy. That really kicked in 2018, and you can see its impact of the carryover through the course of 2019, 2020, 2021, and current. And of course, 2022 is estimated, but I'm pretty confident to say we're going to be reaching right around $900,000, which includes our carryover and revenue for that time. So you can see the funding of the fire department is increasing. One thing to keep in mind is that the board doesn't always use all the money that's appropriated every year. There's always a carryover, and then sometimes, depending on capital expenditures, I reserve a portion and don't appropriate anything, because when you're looking at a fire engine that could cost anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000, you need to hold and reserve. Ambulance is the same. You need to hold a reserve back. And so what the second graph to the left on is, I don't know, whatever, the blue. You can see that over that same 4 years, the actual amount percentage-wise that was actually utilized out of the appropriations. And it ranges from 62% in 2019
to an estimated, I think it's going to be right around 63, 64, 65. The jump in 2021 is because of a large equipment purchase. So you'll see that jump, and that's only at about 72%. So you can see we don't often spend all the money and revenue that we have or even appropriate. So then if we go to the next graph.
I have a quick question. When
Yeah.
we look at the revenues for 2020, does that include the CARES Act funds that we used for?
No, because those were in a
Okay.
different fund.
Okay.
Those were in 2272. So this is just 2192 revenue. You'll see that what you're talking about in the first graph at the top right-hand corner, those are wage-related expenses. And you can see every year that the Board of Trustees has steadily increased wages, hours, paying full pay for at night. You can see the impacts of those. The anomaly is, as Melissa just indicated, 2020 is down because we utilized CARES Act money to pay a significant amount of salaries for fire and police department. So that a portion, almost, I don't know, not quite a quarter, maybe it's right in between there, came out of CARES Act funding. So you see a dip in that. But on all the other areas, you can see that everything is steadily going up a little bit. You see bumps in, obviously, equipment. Again, that was a big purchase there. But absent that, everything is pretty much staying steady. Operating expenses are staying steady from year to year. So with that in mind, we can say the only thing we'd see significant increases in order to remain competitive, in order to provide safety and the services that the resident expects from the fire service, is wages are increasing, and they're increasing in all the departments. So based on that, I assembled some numbers, and Lisa, do you have that one? The other one that has the numbers on it? I hope I sent you both of them, but if not,
No, I've only got that PDF with the graph.
okay.
I can send it to her if you want me to, right now.
Are you
I
on?
think
'Cause you
it's,
can share your screen.
yeah, we estimated
I'm not.
what our wages would be. The chief has talked about a number of things. He talked about some wage increases to retain and attract staffing. So current estimated salaries for 2022 is going to be right around $545,526. Adding a 3% wage on that is going to bump it about $23,000 from that amount. And then 6% wage, which I screwed something up there. I didn't carry that over. That's going to raise it about another $25,000 on top of that. So we're looking at right about, if we get 6% wages this year, we'd be looking at roughly a hair under $600,000. Now to go to the 3-man staffing, which has also been discussed, and this is part-time 3-man staffing, estimated 2022, if we kick that in right now, we'd be right around $725,550. Again, these are all the wage-related expenses. So we factor in Social Security increases, Medicare increases, workman's comp. And then again, we applied the same 3% wage increase because you may have to, again, raise wages to attract enough people to staff 24/7, 3 men at the 3% and the 6%. And that the high end is about $770,000. If we added 3-man staffing and a full-time chief, we're right around $799,000. And this isn't opinion. I'm just stating the fact. Our current revenue, even with the renewal passing, would not sustain these numbers. And that, in my estimation, a 1 mil levy, an additional 1 mil levy, would need to be put on the ballot to fit that model. And that's what I told Chief, that's what I told the trustees, and that's where the numbers are. But our fire department is funded very well. I commend the trustees for their decision-making on an ongoing issue with retention and attracting staff. And it's a challenge every community is having right now.
Thank you very much, Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. I would, as I said through all the discussions, I would like to see the 3-man staffing. I'd rather just stick to 3-man staffing. I'd rather not see my position full-time for the better fit, the benefit of the community, to make sure that we can sustain long-term operations. I would like to see the 3-man staffing for the fire department. That's my stance on that.
I think we all have agreed to that 3-man staffing model. I personally, and I've said this over and over and over again publicly, would like to see 3 full-time. And if that's something that we don't move to right away and that we move to at a later date, that's fine. But to me, it makes sense that if we're going to make 3-man staffing, it should be 3 full-time folks. We're looking at maybe a $50,000, $60,000 increase in medical. Then we ensure that we have people that are confident and bought into this department and into this community. And Chief Grossenbaugh and I have worked over the course of the last 3 years to put together a model of where we wanted the fire department to go. And that was always the goal. And so that's still the goal in my mind. I agree that we cannot fully function on the 1 mil 5-year renewable levy. We are working off of a lot of grant funds and things of that nature. You've done a fantastic job with grants. And I think that an additional 1 mil should be added. And in my mind, I think that if we do a 1 mil renewable and a 1 mil permanent, it allows us the opportunity to let the voters decide. Do they want us to come back in another 5 years? Do they want us just to do a 1 mil permanent? Do they want both? What do the residents of Hinckley want? So that's just my opinion.
Martha, can you clarify, does the grant money factor into the numbers that you gave us there?
I think just that I can't say it doesn't, but it's significant. It's few and far in between because it's usually for purposes that have a very long life to them. So radio grants, etc. And so they're a one-shot grant, but that impact is going to last 10, 15, 20 years. It is an expense that the township would have to absorb if not for grants, but I think the grants are developed with that in mind, and that's why we've gotten them. They are there for communities who don't have a tremendous budget. So I would say one thing, though, talking about full-time is a whole different ballgame, and the numbers would have to be totally reworked because the thing, even if you have 3 full-time people, there's only, and I did these numbers in talking to Trustee Swidek today, just back of the envelope numbers, is that if you're looking at the 24/7 one body in the station, you're looking at 8,736 hours of staffing for one body. Multiply that by 3. 2080, which I'm using, is a layman's hourly, and I know with the Kelly days it's different for a firefighter, but you subtract 2080 by that, and you're still having to staff the station for the one person with 6,656 hours at a rate of at least $18 an hour, if not more, to retain part-time staff when you have full-timers, which I think you're going to have to increase the wages significantly with a mix of full-time and part-time. So that's just for one body. So you multiply all those numbers by 3 and then add the benefits. And right now, if the chief is comfortable in saying that he can staff with 3 part-timers and that, that's his plan at this point, that's that is more beneficial to the tech, especially when you're talking, you might hit 800 calls this year, right?
Yeah, we're on schedule to hit about 800.
I mean, right now, if you're looking at potential wages with three-man staffing at say even a 3% wage, you're at $747,000 in wage related. You're hitting pretty close to $750, $800 a call just for your salary. So there's an economy there that has to be considered in this discussion too.
And I am considering in that. And tomorrow, the Senate Local Government and Elections will be talking about SB 299 for township employees. We don't know what that looks like. They are looking at expanding the category of township employees who are considered for part-time purposes of health coverage and to declare an emergency.
And I read that, but we are considered a large employer under Obamacare. So that remains to be seen whether we are considered a large employer or a small employer. Because for a large employer, that same House bill is set at the what our current policy says for the maximum number of hours that we cap at. So there's two different classifications on that. If you read that, it's a small employer.
Waiting to see what happens with that discussion because it's been ongoing for several.
No, I know that, but we are because of full-time equivalency, we are considered a large employer. We would not fall within that 1920, depending on their formula for how they're determining whether, how they determine a small employer or a large employer on that. There's two different bills floating there. And I don't have the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
All I can tell you is that for Obamacare, we are considered a large employer. We're considered to have over 50 full-time equivalents. So that's the other thing to consider. I imagine if you go to three-man staffing, we're going to even increase
We're going to be
our
increasing.
full-time equivalency.
We're going to have to hire
Denominator
5
there, so.
eight-ish.
But we talked last year about 2 full-time people. And so we had the budget to do that.
Mhm.
And we talked this year at the beginning of the year about incorporating those costs into our, those additional costs into our, I don't have
But
the
we weren't
lines in
talking,
front of
there
me.
were a number of things that weren't in play then.
Right, but
Which you
we,
recall, we weren't paying full-time at night for night shift at that time. when
yes, we
had
were
that-
at the beginning of the year. this year.
No, when I had that conversation with you guys in the summer, we moved into that larger one. And the other, we weren't talking about three-man staffing 24/7. But so there's a whole lot of different things in play.
We had that conversation in fall of last year after they had gotten the raises. I don't know if they had the full-time overnight fees.
No, they did not.
But this year, at the beginning of this year, you had incorporated new lines into the budget to
I
allow
did,
for full-time
but that
staffing.
didn't include the three-man staffing at that point. I did include it in there, and it was at one point, I think I have my appropriation sheet here. I mean, I'm just giving you the numbers.
I understand. I'm
have
trying
a-
to understand.
I don't
it
have a
'cause
dog
I'm-
in this fight. I'm just giving you the
No, I'm
numbers.
just trying to understand it because
There's been I think everybody acknowledges there's been a lot of ideas and changes and evolution of different things. The lieutenants, everybody, wage increases,
Yes.
paid their full-time, salary or wage, hourly wage for nighttime.
Mhm.
Those all impact the equation, and obviously a three-man staff multiplies the current salary dollars by 1.33. So that's all. I just give you the numbers. You guys decide what to do with it. And if you want to meet Jess and I to work a little more on full-time numbers, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something the board wants to proceed with or not. Those are just the numbers.
My turn, or are you going to say anything? Okay. I think we've talked about this a lot. I met with Chief Grossman John last week, as well as a few of the association board members. And I just don't want to lose sight over the fact that, I've been saying this, we need to evolve into this process. Something that Jess has said is, Jess wants to take like one huge lunge forward and get us to that full time. I'm more baby steps. And I think that we shouldn't lose sight of what it is that we have accomplished. Last year you got raises, which unfortunately then everybody else in the surrounding community is raised also, but you got that increase. Then you went from the $10 an hour at night to the full pay in the overnight hours. Now we're talking about going to 3-man coverage. I think that we can't lose sight of the fact that we're getting there with baby steps. We need to grow into that position. And what I think I told you both this on Thursday. I know I told the association, I think we're going to be full-time before you really realize, before any of us realize. I think it's going to be sooner than we realize, but we need to evolve into that step, not just jump automatically to three full-time people with 3-man coverage. And we talked a lot about it, and to the best of my knowledge, unless something has changed, as you're still really happy with going to the 3-man coverage.
I will take 3-man.
That paramedic on all the shifts and the firefighters and the EMTs, that puts everybody in a good situation to have that 3-man coverage. And I think it's the next logical step. That is new that I'm hearing you don't want to do.
No, I do want to do. I want to do both, but I will take 3-man staffing part-time.
So it's your wish list.
Yes, it's my wish list. That's where I've said, that's what I want.
Okay.
I will respect the board's decision on it, but I just want 3-man staffing for the safety of the community, safety of my members, one way or another. I want the 3-man staffing. And I've told everybody, my board, I've told everybody, I want the 3-man staffing for the safety of everything. Is there going to be a lot of challenges and hiccups the first 2 years? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be all roses and unicorns and everything else that first year or two with getting it, but we will get there. And this is setting us up, because I agree that it could, it's going to go fast when we look at the adding a full timer potentially in the future. It will go fast.
And you've been very transparent with that from the beginning, that this is not going to go off without a hitch from the very beginning. I think you've said that. I always want to say you guys, but I know we have some girls there now too, plus Jen. So your people have said, I know they've talked about the full time but with the full time, what has always been stressed when we had, the guys here in the back in February, what has always been stressed is that 3-man coverage. So that's actually 2 steps. That's 3-man coverage plus full time. Mm-hmm. And I think that the next logical step is go to that 3-man coverage.
I just want you to know that was always the progression. So there were 6 steps to this. When we started this back in 2020, it was to give competitive pay for the first time in a while. They hadn't had raises in probably 2 or 3 years. It was to pay more than $10 an hour overnight, to give them to full round clock pay. It was to get them to pay twice a month, like everyone else in Hinckley Township personnel. We accomplished those 3 things in the past 2 years. The next 3 goals were to get 3-man staffing, move to 3 full-time firefighters, and a full-time chief. There wasn't an order in with which those would go, but those were the next 3 goals. So I agree with you that full-time will happen. I'm not saying it needs to happen this second. I would support it happening this second, so that the people that move into Hinckley who think we have a full-time fire department would have at least 3 full men on.
Can I say something so everybody's clear? This isn't a full-time fire department as in everybody's full-time employees. I want to make sure that's clear, because that's been a ongoing, I've heard different things throughout. We would be considered a combination department with a full-timer supplemented with part-time staffing. So I just want to make sure that's crystal clear on that. My goal was never to hire all full-time employees. It was just do that. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure it kind of gets, I know we've all kind of said it's the full-time, but it's still 1 full-timer and part-timer, but
3 full-time.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're totally fine, because I think that people are moving into Hinckley Township and they think we have a full-time fire department, and we don't.
Can I just say that I gave you these dollar figures, and you can get by this year, I think, if you start 3-man now, I think you can get by this year. But you cannot get by on the renewal next year on that. You do not have enough money to do most of the things you're discussing right now. So I think in the levy, say if the board would decide to put a renewal on the ballot, and if the board would decide to put an additional levy on the ballot, you are not getting those monies on January 1. You're going to be getting a portion of those monies through the month of end of January into February, and you're going to get the remainder of the monies in July. Mm-hmm. So we're having a fantasy discussion right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, for lack of a better word, because we have to, your decision making, whatever it might be, has to be on what dollars we have for sure. Mm-hmm. Because once you do it, you don't want to be pulling back. No. So you be conservative. You do what's best for the community. You work within the framework of the finances, and we can. And if you want me to do numbers, drop down numbers once we get into some changes and see what's going on presume, full time. I'm not going to do 3, I'll do 1, and you multiply by 3 or 2 or whatever you think you can phase in on. But there's a whole lot of different things. Like I have no idea what they wouldn't be OPERS, they'd be fire and pension. They'd be fire and police pension fund, which is an entirely different pension fund. There's all different types of framework in a full-time fire employee. So there's a number of things that would obviously have to be considered. And then I had asked you this question before, you would still have to retain at least a 30-man, if not more, with 3-man staffing roster of part-time people to fill.
That is correct.
Well, in addition to 3 full-timers. So that, again, that has to be part of the equation, which I'm sure everybody has thought of. But right now, we are not, it's kind of one or the other. You want 3-man or, you want, that's a big jump. Mm-hmm. It's a big jump this year, a bridge.
I think it's important to talk about it so that when voters are voting, they have an idea of what our goals are for the future.
Well, I always said, if you're going to do a full-time fire department, any discussion of that is way beyond the levy numbers that I've seen you guys get estimates for.
I don't think we're talking full-time fire department. I think we're talking 3 full-time members.
Well, and again, even that to sustain that, because it's likely, and I'm pro-union, don't get me wrong, but any full-time also would probably, you would have to plan for the union representation possibly.
Which they can get now.
And which, is something we went through with the police department. I don't care one way or the other. But what you have to do financially is you have to plan for, our police department started out as a part-time volunteer, and then the full-time. So we have some history on this type of thing, and they're represented by the OPBA, and the OPBA has represented them well, and this is how things evolve.
Jack, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
You have any questions for me, Chief?
What are your concerns?
Well, at the last meeting, and I see you have a contingency here this evening because of what I asked you, was a possibility to look into an alternative. That's my job. Actually, that's my job as a trustee, to ask those hard questions, to look out for the folks that live in the community.
So I've talked to members that either work there or have worked there, and a chief that I'm friends with that currently works there. And they all said that we would have to bring in a representative from the Cleveland Clinic to discuss that with you. And it's definitely not a short-term situation. I can arrange that. I feel that is outside of pulling somebody in like that to have them talk to you, I think that's something I would be glad to get you in contact with their representation or whoever handles it from the Cleveland Clinic. I would be glad to do that for you. But there's nothing I can do based on their current model and stuff like that. I'm not going to give any thoughts or opinions on it until they come and explain some questions that I have on their operation.
Okay, do you feel it's warranted to look at?
No, I do not think so. I think so from hearing how currently they operate.
Wait a second, you just told me that you couldn't comment on it until you get more information, but now you're saying without getting more information, you're saying it's not worth looking into.
No, I don't. I think we have the people here to do it. I think we have a department that handles everything, handles it great. You're going to still have to have fire and EMS service. Our fire department would still have to back up the EMS, and we would potentially not be able to provide anything more than just glorified first aid for the fire side of it. So I think the members that we have are top notch, and I don't want to see them lost in the EMS.
Don't discount that they're good people,
Mm-hmm.
not in any way, shape, or form.
My concern is I don't think we'll be able to get enough information in time. I will be glad to make a phone call tomorrow and have them reach out to you, and they can come into the next work session or into whatever meeting you would like. But as of right now, I don't know as much information. There's a lot of information, a lot of questions I have on it.
The reason I asked that question is you repeatedly come to this board and said you're having difficulty staffing, you have extreme concerns about paramedic response, and we've done numerous things in the past to try and improve employee retention, and those haven't worked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my job to look outside the box and say, well, if their other communities are doing this and able to get 24/7 coverage with no issue as far as paramedics go, and it seems they're doing it well from what I hear, then I have to ask that question.
Understood.
And I understand that too, but in the little bit that I looked into it, there's only 4 ambulances with LST, and I don't even know they're stationed in Medina City. I don't know that they would even want to come to Hinckley. Like, I just wish that when the conversation was brought up, there was more information presented.
Well, that's why I asked to look into it.
I think that asking Chief to do that is almost asking him to dismantle his fire department. I don't think that's a fair ask. In my opinion.
Chief is part of management.
Understood.
Okay.
But
And
so are you.
he's supposed to work with the board.
I understand that, but I just wish that you would have come with a little bit more information so we could have had a more in-depth conversation.
But what other information would you like?
Well, just like I said, I just looked into it just by talking to a few friends that work in the fire industry, and they said they only have 4 ambulances. I mean, how can they service Hinckley Township if they are in Medina and they only have 4 ambulances?
I think it's not fair for anyone to say, I've checked in with this person, I've checked in with this person, I've checked in with this person, because they could all have the same experience, but have a different take on it. And I think that you can't make a real decision like what Jess just said. You got to have somebody from the Cleveland Clinic come here and say exactly what we get, what we don't get with it. You need to look at the facts of it, you have to take the emotion out of it and look at the facts of it. Now, I don't know, because we've talked about this already and you did not know the answer to it then when we talked about it last week. And that is, if our EMS, if there's a simultaneous call and our EMS can't, our medics can't work on someone, then for me, it's a no. Because how many times do we have simultaneous calls? That does jeopardize safety. I use that word very cautiously with everybody because I know that word has been used. I don't feel that looking at these options jeopardizes safety, but we need to get all of the facts before we make a decision on it. That's what I think. So talking to a couple of friends, Chief, you talking to a couple of peers in the industry, we need to actually see what would we get with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that Jack brought up that conversation as a way to say, you know what, it is an option. We have to talk about it and get more information on it. I don't think that anybody at this table was leaning towards it. It was just It's an option. We have to look at it. We have to look at all options because that is our responsibility to the township, is to exhaust all options so that we can make an educated decision.
I will reach out to them so they can provide all the facts.
Now, I do appreciate what Martha presented tonight is what I've been asking you for. What are the costs moving forward in order to ask for some additional tax money from these folks? And you can't just ask for a $500,000, $2 million without saying what it's going to be for. And by laying those numbers out, we now know that to do a 3-man part-time staffing would require an additional $1 million levy.
Mhm.
We know that. That's a hard number now. And you can present that to the people and say, do you want this or don't you?
Mhm. I thought that was covered in that first meeting, but
I would disagree.
okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions that you need to email Jess or speak with Jess before? Because we really do. I mean, I think I said this at our meeting last week. I would like to be able to make the resolution.
I think that we go for it. We
at
go
our
for
next
the
meeting.
one mil renewal and the a 1 mil permanent. Let's see what they want to
wouldn't do
do.
a permanent.
That's my suggestion.
I don't know. I think the permanent levies, I mean, I think right now and citing the police department again as an example, the police department is solely made up of permanent levies. And there's 4 of them. And they only bring, a permanent levy is only going to bring in at this point in time what the valuation is based on the levy amount. And that occurs too with the renewal. We're in a similar situation with our 5-year renewal. But the nice thing about the renewal is that if the trustees only needed a small amount of money, if once it got to a point where there was a really great model, it's working well for the community and the growth is slowed down a bit, then all you need to do next 5 years is say a renewal with a small increase on it. You can do that. A permanent levy, you're locked in to it, that dollar amount, you're never going to get a dime more. It's never going to change unless you, let the levy, just remove the levy from the ballot and start all over again with a whole new levy. I think the permanent levies worked well for the police department, but if at some point due to community expansion, the police need to come back for another levy, I do not think that they would ask for a permanent levy again. I think they would want a levy that would allow the dollars to grow if the trustees decided in accordance with development and growth of the township.
We just did this renewal in 2017, and it's my opinion, and I'm just going to say it one more time. It's my opinion that a 1 mil renewal, we know we've exceeded it if we go to 3-man staffing by another 1 mil. So why don't we give the voters the opportunity to vote and say either we want the renewal or we want the permanent or we want both, and we'll see where we're at in 5 years. That's just my opinion, that if you do 1 renewal and 1 permanent, the voters get to decide.
Well, I think the voters are deciding regardless. I'm not,
They are.
I mean, it's just that you don't have to bring it back up in 5 years if with a permanent levy, you don't have that. So I don't know. It's up to the board. That's my 2 cents. I'm not a decider.
Just so the public knows, a 1 mil is $35 a year for a $100,000 value. If we were to put 2 1 mils on, that's $70 a year. I think you can do the math. I think it's roughly a little over $5 a month
Per
100,000.
Yeah, the renewal is based on 2017 valuations, and then an additional levy would be based on 2022 valuations. So they would be just a hair different depending on the growth of the community. So, but yeah, right around there.
I hear chatting from the audience. Does anybody have something that they want to say since we have such a large body? Do you mind? Just for the virtual audience. Thank you, Mr. Larson.
And make sure the green light is on, Jim. I don't think it was on when I put it up there.
And these are most, excuse me, green light. Hello.
If you press the button, the green light will go on. See how that's green right here on the bottom? There's a button
There's one button
closest
on
to
it,
you.
There's Jen.
Thank you.
Jen will fix it.
Oh, there we go. Oh, it's wireless.
They're wireless.
They're up top.
COVID CARES Act funds.
It's better.
You want to share this one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
She's still in touch.
I just have like 3 or 4, 5 questions to ask. And on some of them, I really don't expect an answer this evening, but just to get them on the table so that maybe they can be addressed in the future. But sitting in the back of the room, I was just making some notes for myself. And I just wrote this. It said, many of you will have already been visited for some reason by this department or will be visited in the future. I have on several occasions for me or for neighbors. I said, if this happens, your view will change dramatically if you have any experience or exposure to all these members here. And the questions start with this. I said, if there were 3 full-time or part-time firefighters, would turnover be less? Because it always seems that there's a lot of turnover, and that's just the way that it works here. And then they go on to full-time positions. Would the turnover be less? Decreasing training costs because of retention? I don't know the answer to that. I'm curious to know what the estimated millage or budget required for 3 full-time, part-time firefighters would be. Would that decrease training costs because you'd have higher retention if they were full-time fire department employees? And I'm sure I don't expect any estimate now because that's something that requires certainly some digging and research. With the growth that we see around here, the developments, the apartments and so forth, with projected calls projecting calls year over year with the prospect of more developments and even more senior housing, dense apartment complexes drive more activity. One would think so, especially if there is a lot more senior housing coming, and who knows what that would be. And the last question is, I was at a wedding over the weekend sitting next to a couple from Bath. And I asked them, how many people lived in Bath? Because I thought there was like 15 or 20,000 people in Bath. To my surprise, there's maybe 500-600 more residents in Bath than there is in Hinckley. And I was wondering, how in the world are they able to fund a full-time fire department? And I'm assuming that it is a full-time fire department over there.
It is.
It's one of the wealthiest communities in Northeast Ohio.
Well, and obviously, I would think that wealth would have something to do with it.
A lot.
Well, but also they have economic agreements with Montrose and Fairlawn.
Oh, okay.
So they share revenue, especially in some of those office parks where they have the high, high-tech companies or doctors' offices and things, just like Montville's Jet over
So
there.
we don't have a comparable circumstance.
We do not.
Okay.
They negotiated all that years ago, and that's where they get.
Yeah, that was an easy one to answer, wasn't it? Okay, and that's it. I just like to see the whole situation clarified, settled, and move on, so we can all have the fire department that we have had in the past that we expect to have in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
Mr. Larson, I would just say one thing, that I've been visited by these guys twice in my lifetime as well. And I would not disrespect any one of them.
Right.
But I would not disrespect any one of you either. And that's why I asked the questions I asked.
Anyone else? I see little hands.
Hi, I'm Angela Chesnick. I just had a question. Since trying to compare us to other communities, what does Granger have or Sharon have? Because their sizes are probably comparable.
Ranger staffs, I believe, 2 members, not around the clock. They do not staff. Sharon just did passed levies in November, and they gave substantial raises. They are having retention issues as well down there. And they are drastically increasing their call volume because on 18, they actually have it's not supposed to be classified as a nursing home, but it's a nursing home, and they're driving up. Their call volume is skyrocketing because of that.
Right.
They also have, I'm not sure, I can't speak on how much commercial revenue they bring in with Route 18 and like that.
A bit more than us.
Yeah, we have obviously, as you guys
They
know,
also
very
have the
little.
schools though too, so they have to, the high school and the middle school.
But even with commercial revenue, like Medina City isn't full-time. They've got like 3 full-time employees. The rest is all part-time.
All part-time, and Medina City doesn't staff it overnight either.
And Medina City services like 53,000 people because they do Montville and Medina Township.
Okay.
But they staff till I believe midnight, and they're all and at midnight everybody comes from home. And obviously with that whole the 3 communities, they actually can pull more because they're going to the different stations in each one of their communities.
Right.
And it's my understanding that we do a lot of mutual aid for Granger in order to assist.
I could have ran the number. I didn't without knowing. We done few, and we have mutual aid. They come over and help us. They've helped us in the late April on it. But we go into Brunswick a lot. We were just in Brunswick, I think the other day, I believe so. Some of you guys may have been on. But it's common for us to go to the different communities help because when big calls come in, everybody needs manpower on that.
Right.
But so what your question is with Granger, they only staff till a certain amount at night. They're only doing 2. And then the Sharon is, they're having some staffing issues right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure what their reasoning is on that, but I know their call volume is skyrocketing because of.
Do you know how many staff they have?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I can look.
That's what I just thought it might help us.
I'll try to look into it for you.
Okay.
Yep.
In your spare time.
Yes. Make phone calls on the way up.
Anyone else?
Hey, Nikki Long, 1941 Parker. Chief, I just had a question. In your quarterly report, I think that you said 35 maybe simultaneous calls?
35 overlapping calls. That tracks from the time we're dispatched to the time we're back. We're actually back in court, or just before we're back in court.
Okay. Is there a paramedic always on duty? I mean, how do you, I don't know much, so I apologize.
No problem.
So if you get called to a medical emergency, is there always someone on staff who can handle that?
We always attempt to schedule with a paramedic.
Okay.
We can't always guarantee it right now. It's hard. We're trying only to hire medics or members in medic school. And when we do our scheduling, the officers and the FTOs, the field training officers who are all paramedics, all get to pick their shifts first.
Okay.
So they pick their shifts up to try and give the leadership because they're most experienced, and then they're all medics. That doesn't always happen, or maybe there is a medic already on shift and there's a basic on shift, and we have a call off because that full-time member gets, or that part, our paramedic gets mandated at whatever full-time job they have.
Okay.
So it's at that point in time, we need somebody to step up.
Okay.
And I know, speaking with some of the members, because of how we pick shifts and everything else, because there's limited shifts, that if there's a third shift open, some of these members will be able to pick up additional shifts. So it will help on making sure there's a medic on every shift. And I've already kind of started working on the plan that if this goes through, so I can be prepared, that all the shift signups, the first people picking are the paramedics, so that every shift has that paramedic, because that's the gold standard of EMS for that.
So if you go to 3-man staffing, does that help you alleviate the burden of simultaneous call?
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. There's options how we can kind of maneuver how
Okay.
calls come in. If it is a lower emergency call, lift assist, something like that, they can
Okay.
take a pickup truck and the squad and go begin to render care. And if something comes in, they can split away and do that. But still, that's not always going to guarantee that.
Okay. Do other communities, maybe not even surrounding communities, but communities that are comparable to us, I mean, is there sort of a default plan that they have to deal with simultaneous calls, or is it just sort of? Okay.
Our policy right now is we're lucky enough that we do have several members that do come back in. Now, I can't tell you if tomorrow they're going to be available or not, but our policy is if another call comes in, the squad crew, if they're on another call, automatically calls mutual aid to get that help coming.
Okay.
And then if we have members that are in town, they're coming, they all have portable radios. So they'll get on the radio and say, hey, I'm responding. If it's just one, like we've had before, they go and start whatever care they can provide. If they have two, one may go pick up the ambulance, one may pick it up on scene, but they communicate and then they disregard the mutual aid squad. But to make sure that we have care coming, it is just they automatically mutual aid. And then if whoever's available comes back in.
So, go ahead.
The era they're seeing across the state of Ohio just put a volunteer firefighter task force in place. They're offering grant money out there, and we're still looking to see what their grant money does. The amount of volunteers are truly dying off because of state requirements, jobs, the pay. I mean, we can go on with that. So we're not seeing we're not seeing members from the community going, hey, I want to volunteer, but to train somebody to go through it. You know, a firefighter is a minimum if we go fire one, which is the basic to get them so they can actually go interior firefighting. That's 120 plus hours. To get EMT, that's several hundred hours. And then medic school is almost a full year of pretty much dedication. Don't plan on anything else for that time. So unfortunately, to find volunteers that do that, we look, I teach at the Career Center, I teach at Cuyahoga Community College. We have flyers up there, but we're always going to have a turnover in the part-time. Even if we had the 3 full-timers, we're still always going to have a turnover on the part-time side because there's always members looking for full-time. And we hope that with good pay, great equipment, beautiful fire station, good morale, you know, we try to make that family atmosphere here that if it's up for them to go, do I want another job or I'm already working 2 part-time jobs, I got hired full-time, which one do I go to? We're hoping that they choose Hinckley over that because of everything that I've been putting in place and with the support from the guys to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Sean Papera, Westwind Trace. Last year when we were researching the senior living facility that's going in the apartment complex, I specifically reached out to both Sharon and Granger, asking them about services. I believe you called me in response to that question. I had asked, were they seeing an increase? And at that time, both Chief Sentner and you, I believe, emailed me back and within the prior board and said that they were not elevated at that time. Now you're saying that these calls are blowing up. That was your... No, they have a high rise or a 5-story or 4. Does anybody know over there how big that is? It's like a 4 or 5-story, and it's actually nursing staff care. Okay. That's how this was. Okay. So this was projected as a senior living. So that's why, this is senior living and, we're trying to do apples and apples. So my question at that time was, what did they see an increase? I was told no. Now that, this facility is, this complex is going in, are you now projecting that we will need 3-man or that we will need in order to cover that area? No, from my understanding, from talking to other communities that have very similar of what that's being projected, the 1 and 2 story style senior housing where it's able-bodied. They're not looking for, there isn't 24-hour nursing care or anything like that. Everything that I've spoken to, the other chiefs, the other communities from Medina County and even into Summit County, they typically saw a 10 to 15 call increase in a year. That's a little, that's still an increase. The 3-man staffing,
it's senior housing, it's senior elderly care. There's always more concern with that.
Absolutely.
We are the, Ray always said we were the oldest community population wise. We're just seeing that across the board throughout the community. Almost 200 calls in the first 3 months, 30 plus over, and we're still on 30 plus calls over.
So you're not thinking that facility is going to tax your system at all?
No.
So if we did nothing, you guys would be okay?
No, I still need the 3-man for the severity of potential calls that come through the community. That's EMS side and that's fire side. Because when you look at a cardiac call or a difficulty breathing call in the back of the ambulance, typically you need 2 sets of hands.
Absolutely.
2 pairs of hands.
Absolutely.
That's where regardless if that community is going in or not, we need 3-man staffing. I'm not projecting that because of how it's been at least presented to me as almost like a Redwood Estates, which my in-laws live in Redwood Estates, and other communities that have them, they don't see the drastic increase. Some of the newer developments going in, I can tell you some of the new ones that we've had for the last 2-3 years, we've been there once or twice. I could run numbers and all that once or twice. Those new homes in those areas are typically a younger population from what I've seen and what I've dealt with my experience here. So I'm not too even concerned with that as of right now. I need to see some facts coming in.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Sure,
you talked
absolutely.
about blowing up
Yep,
and that was quite the opposite of what I was told.
That was theirs is
She's on there too.
almost like a nursing home is what I've been told it was comparing to, where that everything I've been told to is not going to be like that at all.
We'll see.
And just for the public's understanding, with the 2-man staffing that we have currently, if we do have an issue, we've got 1 driver and 1 person in the back of the ambulance taking care of that issue. So I spoke with the fireman just this past week who used to be a fireman for Hinckley, and he said that's the scariest position you ever want to be in, is in the back of a squad by yourself. And is it true that we can't actually fully respond to a fire with 2-man staffing?
You can do very, very, very limited. We can respond,
but not fully respond.
We can only spray water from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
We even have limited with the 3, but it puts that extra more. So when the resources come, we can go right into fireground operation. And that's a lot of the stuff I'm taking on Bowling Green, is discussing the safety concerns of that. But there's a lot of departments that run 3-man staff.
And just not to lengthen this, sorry, one thing that folks maybe aren't familiar with is like back in the day when Jess and I were much younger, and we had, we weren't staff, but we had really the majority of the fire department lived in Hinckley Township. So when the pager went out with the call, you had sometimes too many people who would respond, and then that narrowed. Chief Potts came in and he got things more into shifts. So to add to Jess's difficulties in being chief of this department, we just do not have the community members. It's helped him in a way because you can go out to other communities and get experienced people coming in. And that's the other reason. He cannot guarantee that he's going to get 3 extra people to come in when the tone goes out. So that's just a whole changing in the fire service that everybody's experiencing. It's not that anybody did things wrong 20 years ago. It's just a very different environment now.
Absolutely.
So that adds to his challenges, and then the trustees' challenges too.
So do you have any further conversation on the levy structure, or do you?
Not this time.
Okay. Trustee Astral?
No, not with the levy.
Okay.
But we still have to do Josh.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, I completely forgot that. I'm so sorry.
I looked at Jack. I'm like, he didn't do this yet.
No, I'm so sorry.
We all have it turned to that.
Okay.
Effective at the end of this month is the resignation of Josh Baker, effective June 1st. Josh joined the department about 7-8 years ago, came on with no training and became a volunteer and moved on through up into firefighter EMT. They're waiting another baby come July, so he's trying to get some time.
We have
my lovely wife here.
Thank you, man.
So he he is stepping down to spend more time with his family.
Very good. So do you want to make a motion then?
Yes, a motion to accept Josh's resignation.
So moved.
Second?
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes.
I have 2 items not on the list, you please.
Nope. You've used up all your time.
I know. We have a blood drive this Saturday at the old fire station. And then June 3rd, which is Friday at 6:30 p.m., we are honoring Lydia Walkna with her retirement. We are having cake and some light snacks and refreshments. We invite the public or anybody that ever worked with Lydia for all her time. She had just over 20 years on the fire departments and did a lot of her last several years doing public education in the schools and homeschool groups with her dog. She dedicated a lot of time and her own money in teaching dogs how to help with fire education for the public. I can tell you when I've been out in public with her in the area, firefighter Lydia, the kids would scream when we're at stores, and I'm just like, where is this coming from? So anybody that would like, June 3rd, we open the doors to the fire station for you guys to come in and honor Lydia for her 20 years of service to this community.
Do we want to see about getting that on the website? Is that, I mean, I know we talked about not doing outside organizations, but doing something like that?
I think maybe just see if you can contact Hinckley Elementary and if they can put it on their Facebook page.
Well, we've already been in contact with elementary trying to get, but I'll see if we can get that out to the families.
I just feel.
And Jen, you know if they sent it out
Are
to
we,
the families or just the?
are we doing, weren't we going to do something at the meeting?
I was just basically, that was the same thing. That's the same thing. Yep.
So that's it.
Yep.
It's off.
Yep. I believe the association bought her a plaque to honor her time. So we will present with that to her as well at that time.
Okay. We can put it on the website. I'm just afraid no one will see it. So if you guys have language that you want to put on it.
Okay.
What do you think, Jeff? What do you think about that? Are you?
I prefer to be consistent. You know, there's enough other ways for them to make notification.
Okay.
You could put it on your website. Okay. Anything else, Chief?
Nope. I'd like to be excused so I can head back to Bowling Green.
Back to Bowling Green.
Does anyone have any questions for the fire chief before we let him go for the evening? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you guys for your time.
Riding like a
Truck
train?
is great.
Good.
Yes.
Do you
Truck
want
is
to
fantastic.
set aside a time next week?
Yeah.
You just let.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
That's,
I'll let you know the schedule.
I will talk to you both Friday.
Yep.
And we'll see about scheduling
Yep.
something.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Mr. Bahari from the
Thank
Service
you. Drive
Department.
carefully.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying through the levy conversation.
And I apologize for not bringing you up first.
That's all right.
Bye, Maddie.
So the first thing I'm going to bring up here is the service department report from 1/1 to 4/30. I'll start with the hours. For administration, we had 101. Roads, we had 2,232 and a quarter. Police was 12. Cemetery was 54. Fire was 12. 64 for holiday. 415 and 3/4 for OT for a total of 2,891. Some of the completed jobs here, obviously being through winter.
I'll give you a copy.
Snow and ice throughout the winter, dump and wash fleet throughout the winter. Also fulfill Township ODOT salt contract for the 2021-2022 season. Converting our fleet back over for the construction season. Weekly road and sign inspections, monthly catch basin inspections, cross culvert inspections for 2022 road work. Plow damage list completed. Cold patching various roads, 2 burials at Maple Hill Cemetery, 1 burial at Ridge Cemetery. Paint and clean the old fire station bays for Buzzard Day. Install the monument boxes out on Bellis Road, which was paved last year. Tree trimming and cut back on various roads and for the 2022 paving road selections. Ditching on various roads along with sewer jetting, various cross culverts and ditch enclosures. Road calculations marked and completed for awarded contractor for 2022 paving list. Equipment repairs on backhoe, truck number 11, truck number 12, service department cruiser, and other of our various equipment. We also had contractor supervision for the McKee Trail pad replacement and furnace replacement for historical building. Water heater replacement for town hall completed by the service department, and then also cemetery cleanup for the spring season, along with landscape for all the graves.
That's
Sorry,
a
that was
lot.
long.
Thank you. Wait, you guys really do a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
What about in your spare time did you put on?
There's much more. I could have put about 3 pages on. I just wanted to keep it short and sweet.
Thank you.
Second thing on the list is the OPWC biannual payment in the amount of $18,040.81.
So I'm going to ask you to make a resolution authorizing the second half OPWC payment for C-131W and C-155V in the amount of, like Mike said, $18,040.81.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes.
All right, there was 2 things that were not on the list that I finally heard back from Matt Martin about the subdivision standards. I sent that out to you guys today. He sent it over to me about noon. And I'd like to, if you guys read everything over and you're good with everything, I would like to try to pass that tonight.
I have looked it over. The only thing I had a question about was under typical street section pavement type on page 2, it says final approval requires adoption of a trustee resolution. That's not really a typical thing now. Do we want to start having the trustees determine the final approval on roads?
That's to give you the road selection to be able to pick from when they bring it to you. Because that's one of the things I asked Matt Martin about. And he said to, and then I spoke with Martha about trying to put that in. So, and that's what even Matt Martin said, to put it below that header line. Pretty much to
We
give you
don't
that final choice.
approve roads.
If they make a different
You
selection.
guys are.
Like
yeah,
if you want
you're
a
making
different build style.
Different selection.
That's
you
why
guys
that,
have to
because now
approve.
there's the 2 build styles for each. So that gives you the choice of which road build style you'd like to go.
Otherwise, they're just going to do what they want without
That's
your,
good.
Exactly.
you knowing it.
Mike called me excited
I think
today.
it's smarter. Just don't know that I
Anything?
love the wording of it.
What else? What would you?
I'm thinking.
I think it's fine. I don't know. We ran through a number of different things, and you need to adopt a resolution number on that specific road for that choice.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, with that being said, making motion for resolution of the Board of Township Trustees of Hinckley Township, Medina County, Ohio, adopting the road district as prescribed by Article 4 of the Medina County Engineering Code for residential subdivision development of Medina County, Ohio. Whereas in the interest of preserving the public health and general welfare of the present and future residents of Medina County, it was deemed necessary in the opinion of the Medina County Commissioners to adopt general rules and regulations setting standards and requirements and securing the construction of improvements shown on the plats and plans as allowed by section 711.101 of the Ohio Revised Code. And whereas it was the further opinion of the Board of Medina County Commissioners that through Article 4 of those rules and regulations, a road district per township should be established so that the political subdivision having a maintenance responsibility of said improvements will have roads constructed compatible to their normal maintenance procedures and the varying topographic and physical conditions of the respective township. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Board of Township Trustees in and for Hinckley Township, Medina County, Ohio, that the following rules and regulations setting the criteria to be used within the road district for subdivision developments within said township shall govern all construction pertaining to subdivision from June 15, 2022 forward. Typical street section pavement type. Final approval requires adoption of a trustee resolution. Urban subdivisions, density greater than 1 house per acre. An 8-inch fiber reinforced pavement with 3/4 inch dowels across the traverse joints on 3-inch of base stone with a standard subgrade with ditch enclosure and 4-inch perforated pipe. Road width shall be 22 feet, special residential, or an 8-inch fiber reinforced pavement with 3/4 inch dowels across the transverse joints on 3-inch of base stone with a standard subgrade with type 2A curb with curb inlet catch basins and 4-inch perforated pipe. Road width shall be 25 feet to the back side of the curb, urban residential. Rural subdivisions, density less than 1 house per acre, an 8-inch fiber reinforced pavement with 3/4 inch dowels across the transverse joints on 3-inch of base stone with a standard subgrade with ditch enclosure and 4-inch perforated pipe. Road width shall be 22 feet. Special residential or an 8-inch fiber reinforced pavement with 3/4-inch dowels across the transverse joints on 3-inch of base stone with standard subgrade and type 2A curb with curb inlet, catch basins, and 4-inch perforated pipe. Road width shall be 25 feet to the backside of the curb, urban residential. Sidewalks. The urban street section includes sidewalks. Sidewalks would be required with urban subdivisions and not required with rural subdivisions. Cul-de-sacs. Center islands with proper drainage are required in permanent cul-de-sacs when a homeowners association accepts maintenance. Boulevards within township road right-of-ways are forbidden unless permitted by motion of the trustees. Design speed, 25 mile per hour design criteria and 25 mile per hour signs should be used on all minor rural residential roads. Lighting, a street light will be installed and paid for by the developer, and the monthly cost will be paid by the township. Street lights will only be installed at the main entrance of the subdivision. Developer will install highly efficient LED directional lighting to minimize light pollution to surrounding property. Only by written agreement by the trustees may this regulation be overridden.
Second.
All right. Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna pass this down so you all can sign it and then we can give it to Mike and it's done. There you go. You just give me a copy.
Maybe an hour ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make copies for Matt.
Jack, did you practice that? You didn't study
And I'm gonna keep
anyone.
the copies in my office too.
Did a good job. I will scan it into my new file.
Yep.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Bahari?
There's only one other thing I was going to bring up that got brought to my attention. The LED lighting out at Kovac. Raw went and called and they were under the assumption that it was going to be warranty work for this bulb. And then Brilliant also called me and said that it was not warranty work. So they have a bill of $955.40. You know, it's up to the board whether they want to pay it or if they're wanting Raw to pay it or what you guys want to do. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention and see what you guys wanted to do with this.
Well, for the other trustees, I'll give a little back information. When we had the last debacle with the dirt at the fields, I'm sure you saw the email where I sent out in no uncertain terms that prior approval had to be taken. This is on Brilliant Sign. Brilliant Sign went out, thought it was going to be warranty work when they got up there and that. Then all of a sudden they decided, well, we'll fix it because they were under the assumption that Raw had the authority, even though Raw in an email said to them, any billable work needs prior approval. So Brilliant has offered me the option of, you know, we can pay the bill and leave the work done, or they can go out and remove it and give us an estimate for a cost replacement at a later date.
Sounds silly.
My thought process is that, and he is under clear understanding now that they can't do anything without talking to us as far as expending funds, as well as Ra has said they will no longer contact any vendors for work. They'll pass it through us first. So with that being said, if we tell them, you know, we don't want to pay this right now, they may come back and say, well, it's going to be this, you know, an extra $500 to do it. It's something that needed to be done. And what I would ask to Martha, do we have the funding for it?
Yeah, it would come out of the rec fund.
The rec fund.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to pay the bill from Brilliant Sign in the amount of $955.40 for the repair to LED lighting at Kovac Field.
Second.
That's all I have.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine.
Yes. And just so you know, I had a gentleman from Raw, I guess it's a whole new executive board, call and asked us for a donation. And I said, your infield dirt is your donation. Now we just added to it. So he said, well, Sharon gave us $1,000 and now I can tell him we gave him a little over $2,000.
Somebody called me from there asking about if our road crew would do field maintenance. I'm like,
they're making their rounds, Trustee Astral. Making their rounds.
I don't think so because they're kind of busy. But I said, you can have them call me. I'm like, you can have Mike Euler call me and ask me about it. But it was like, a friend of a friend called. I'm like,
I explained to them that their best bet is to send us an email or come to a work session so that if they have something, we can all
tell them.
Yeah, at the same time.
Mike, I sent you a follow-up email relative. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Get those squared away. And the other thing was, Martha, that we got something from, was it Otarma? With a risk assessment. There's a whole list of things on there that some things that are your responsibility to take care of. So I'll get that to you.
You know what? I got an extra copy here for some reason. I'll just stick it on Mike's pile.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Bahari?
That's it.
Does anyone from the audience have anything for Service Department Supervisor, Mr. Mike Bahari? Okay, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to move right into zoning. We have Sunshine Law training scheduled for Zoning Commission alternate Cindy Egelman on June 8th. You know that she is one of our newer board members. I just wanted you to be aware because it's after the 6-month time period that we had given them. We have a request to hire a court reporter for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Public hearing, you each should have gotten that email and I thought it was in our packet. There it is.
I don't think I got it. Joan, she told me when I got them set up for that meeting, she's like, I just emailed you.
So this is with regard to the adult daycare center and our legal counsel has recommended a court reporter for that hearing.
Oh, that's why she sent it to the wrong, she didn't have my email address right.
That'll do it.
That'll do it every time.
It's gonna be why I didn't get it. Okay.
So with that said, I pulled the minutes from the last time we hired the court reporter, which was a good thing, and we'll come back to that. At this time, I'd like
Can I ask something though?
Yes.
Was there any consideration, because our zoning code does state that we can, if technical assistance or assistance is the BZA deems they need some outside assistance with something, that cost can be covered by the applicant.
That is correct. But in conversation with the prosecutor's office, they want us to pay for it. But you're exactly correct. That is how it reads.
Can we share it?
Why do they want us to pay for it? Is there a reason?
I would defer to the prosecutor's office, and when he had conversation, and he left me a message and then called me again the very next morning, right at 9:00, because he was concerned. He wanted to make sure that it was a township fee.
Well, it would be a township
but that
fee.
we paid for it separate from the applicant.
Well, we would pay. It would be part of the applicant's application process. Just like when when the zoning commission is requested George Schmergen.
Right.
For technical expertise. The applicant in the case of Wolney Properties, they paid us. We put that money in a reserve and then we paid Mr. Schmergen. But they paid us as part of their fee for that service. And that's what we've done in the past for other BZA hearings. When a court reporter has been deemed necessary, we have said, that the applicant now.
Yeah, why couldn't we say that the cost for this appeal is going to be X number of dollars?
Well, whatever the language in our zoning resolution says is what we've followed. And it does say that if required, we can assess that fee onto the applicant. I'm just asking for
But I'm
consideration.
telling you that the prosecutor's office called me twice to say that we are not to do that in this circumstance.
Okay.
Is it okay if I make a motion?
Sure.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to hire Northeast Court Reporting at a rate of $70 an hour and $5.50 per page to transcribe the BZA hearing scheduled for May 25th, 2022.
Second. Sorry.
Can I ask something? Is this the same corporate reporter we're using?
Yes, but it is this very short meeting. This is a 20-minute meeting, maybe, if that is what I'm told.
Will there be a lot of people talking?
No.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean.
Everybody was thinking that.
Okay.
And I'm not making
You
name
don't have to
tags.
say it.
Did you second that, Jack?
I did.
All right,
Monique did.
Monique. Okay. Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Moving right along, I have zoning reports, and I don't want to bore you guys with the details. These are lengthy reports, but this is for 2021. Just a quick recap for the folks in the audience, and because we didn't do the fourth quarter, we were kind of waiting on some numbers. We have a subtotal of $6,409 for the fourth quarter of 2021, and our annual activity report shows us a total collection into the zoning office of $40,890. Largest component to that is 34 new residents at $19,379. Any questions on that? You can look at it in your leisure.
Little bedside reading.
So I'm going to move right over to cemeteries. Trustee Swedek.
We have a deed that we will be signing, and also the report for the income statement, first quarter payment received for a 6-footer request, 3 full casket burials, and 2 lots sold.
Busy.
For a total of $5,699.
There you go. That's more than we made at the fourth quarter of zoning.
Because we raised those fees, huh?
So you have a
need
deed.
to decide the deed.
You have a deed that we need to probably have 2
This is-
witnesses for. I think the originals are in those brown files.
Lo and behold.
Can we get 2 witnesses from the audience, please, to sign the deeds as well? I'm going to need to sign that before the witnesses sign it.
They know you.
That's just your the stamp must have been done.
Oh, I did.
Thank you very much. You can move to the end.
You can move to the back now. You don't have to. Sit.
Thank you.
Just get those out with there.
And anything else on cemeteries? I think you've got it covered based on my agenda.
I lost my agenda too.
There you go.
Somebody copies of it floating around.
Trustee Asherle.
That's it.
Okay, I just wanted to recognize Sarah Cooper. We signed a certificate of recognition for her. She has been awarded the Girl Scout Gold Award, and there will be a ceremony where she will be presented with her certificate on June 25th of this year. It represents the Girl Scouts' time, leadership, creativity, and contributions to making the world a better place. So good job to Sarah for that. She was our only Hinckley resident to get that award.
Thank you for making the certificate too. That was a beautiful certificate.
Thank you to Suzanne for sending me the template. So thank you to both of you for signing it. So I just wanted to bring you both up to speed on the proctor training that we had discussed. I'm hoping to schedule that sometime next week. Either Jen or myself can do it, depending on Lisa's availability and Jackson's availability. I've been kind of holding off on it because we are still waiting. I've been going back and forth with Zoom on, Jen had described it to me as we have to add like a second licensed user for the sign-in that they use. But Zoom is telling me, no, it needs to be an alternative host. So we need to assign that tech help email as an alternative host. It will not take away we can still sign in with the admin one, but then we won't have to be here making sure that they're signed in as a co-host.
Is the admin account one of the hosts? Because that would solve the problem. Instead of the tech help, just use the admin?
I think the admin is the host. I think that is our license.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's our licensed host for it, because that's always what I use to sign in when
That's how I sign in.
with the admin. Okay, so that's our we can have
Anyone who signs in under that account is the proctor.
Oh.
So all she has to do is sign in at the admin and use that admin. And
so we can all be signed in on that at the same time?
No, we cannot. You would have to go in and a personal Zoom, which is free, but because it boots the person who's in proctoring. So
okay, so
all she's got to do is
then maybe that's the problem. I was having them, instead of having them have our password and everything for the admin, I was using the tech help.
Gotcha.
So I'm halfway done with this problem. So I would say let's just continue with it if we're able to get a resolution so that can be the proctor sign in, because that's also where people are emailing if they're having a technical difficulty. So, which Jen said she's never
gotten
received an email.
Yeah, never.
So, but let me see if I don't have a resolution by Monday or Tuesday, then I'll just abandon ship with that idea and we'll just have them do the admin one and we can get them squared away on that.
Because I'm pretty sure I can tell you, after the meeting, I could show you where I can go in and see. I think there are 2 licensed users and then the rest of them are just added on and we can change them. I think Chris Kalina and Jim Burns might be on there. We can take them off and put in Lisa.
She told me there was only, at Zoom, they told me there's only 1 licensed user right now with us and it's the admin.
Okay. Okay.
I'll forward you the emails tomorrow. So
I can play with it and show you where to find it once because you can log in and do the same thing I can do.
Okay. And then I just wanted to see, I know this was mentioned last week at work session, that Melissa, you'd mentioned like having like a sign off for the proctors, just, saying they're not going to release our Zoom password or anything, which I think maybe everybody should sign off on that. And my question is, do we just want to include that in the non-union manual that we're redoing? Should we write it into that? Or are you both thinking we should do something sooner than that? Because we could just, since we know that we're updating that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might be a way to cover us for future proctors too. What are your thoughts?
In the manual, or you're talking about, well, the proctor is an outside employee anyway, right?
No, they're a township employee.
Oh, sorry. No, they're
Okay.
not a contractor.
Right.
Yeah, they're a township employee.
Yeah, if you want to do something temporary until the manual is done, you can do that,
I think just reach out to Brian and make sure the
Try to
verbiage is okay, or
You might even find on Otarma. Otarma has templates that you can use with job descriptions and different policies and procedures.
It may already be implicit in our current non-union manual, though not specifically stated.
I didn't see it. I looked at it.
So we do have a cybersecurity policy also, which I'll get you a copy of that. And that I think that
might be in there.
We have more policies than anyone knows.
I didn't even know we had that because I didn't send the
Oh yeah, we got all kinds of policies.
Okay. Just keep learning it as I go. Okay. Then I just had on my agenda the recap of the meeting with the fire department and fire association, but I feel we already discussed that earlier. I did want to, and a lot of the copies were gone, but I was just going to kind of do a top line breakdown of the CRA. Jim Larson had emailed some questions about the CRA application that I just went ahead and sent to the county that she answered, which they were really good questions and they were very, very thorough answers. So I'm going to kind of just give a very top line description of these answers, but I do have an electronic version. So if anybody would like the electronic version, just send me an email and I can email you the responses to them. The first question, and CRA is the Drug Mart tax abatement request. The first question that was asked is, who can grant a tax abatement for a parcel within the township boundaries? Through authorization of the Ohio Revised Code sections 3735.65 to 3735.70. Oh, thank you, Lisa. She's sharing the screen. The Medina County Commissioners created Hinckley Township CRA Zone Number 2 in December 1987 and CRA Zone Number 5 in July 1995. A tax abatement can only be approved within the boundaries of these CRA zones, not anywhere in Hinckley Township. Next question is, does the township have any input other than opinion as to whether or not it is granted or denied? The application process for CRA Zone Number 5 includes scheduling a meeting with the company that includes Hinckley Township trustees, the county commissioners, the county auditor, and the Brunswick City Schools, who work towards a common agreement on the language that will be presented to all public bodies that will be signatories on the agreement. While the Ohio Revised Code authorizes only the county commissioners to actually grant a tax exemption, the Medina County Commissioners' policy is to gain the approval and consent of the Hinckley Township trustees before I come to the county with the CRA legislation for them to consider. Is the tax abatement for property tax, sales tax, inventory tax, some or all of these? Hinckley Township CRA program allows for the exemption of real property tax on either new construction or the increased value of a remodeled facility. The CRA program does not exempt sales tax. What role, if any, does the school board play? Must they approve? Can they disapprove? The CRA Zone Number 5 is considered a post-94 CRA zone. For applications in this zone, there's also a 14-day school board notification period. And if a CRA tax abatement is higher than 50%, the school board must approve it. But Hinckley Township CRA Zone Number 5 does not allow for a tax abatement higher than 50%. So anything that's done with the school board beyond notification is purely a courtesy. Is the tax abatement for local, county, and state taxes or only one or some? The CRA tax abatement applies to local and county real property taxes. Can the abatement be granted before a project is completed or only after? So this is going to be a post-94 CRA. With a post-94 CRA, the abatement must be approved before the construction begins. So I know that that was a question that came up a lot of times with the senior community. They've already broken ground, so they can't file at this point. Is the tax abatement still in effect if the business were to be sold to a different entity or closed and reopened as a different business? For a post-94 CRA, if the property changes hands, the abatement must be amended to reflect the new name of the property owner. If the property owner is willing and able to abide by the originally negotiated terms of the original agreement, then the property tax exemption will continue. If the abatement is denied, could Drug Mart petition for annexation after construction is completed into Brunswick, and do they have the authority to grant such an abatement? Any property owner could petition for annexation according to annexation laws. If you're asking whether the City of Brunswick has the authority to grant an abatement, then yes. The City of Brunswick has a pre-94 CRA program. Is a tax abatement just an administrative inducement to attract a business to an area. A 50% tax abatement provides a nice balance to a community which may otherwise not benefit from a new business investment. 50% of new property taxes is always better than 100% of zero new property taxes. And the last one is, how long is the process to apply for and receive a tax abatement generally? For a post-94 CRA tax abatement, once the application is received by my office, the 14-day notice period commences. It usually takes another 1 to 2 months to complete the entire process of negotiating terms, finalizing legislation, seeking approval from all relevant public bodies, and executing the agreements, and filing the agreements with the county auditor and the state of Ohio. So that was the Cliff's Notes version of all the answers. But if anybody wants the full, thorough answers that Bethany provided, just shoot me an email and I can forward them to you.
And then just for the public's knowledge, that's Brunswick City Schools. All right, thank you for that.
That's all I
Anything
have.
else? Okay. Trustee Sweattick.
The only thing I have, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to investigate a charge of complaint against a public employee
Would you like to do that at the end?
at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
please.
Second?
Oh, did you second it?
I did.
Melissa, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
sorry.
thought you were asking.
I'm writing.
I was going to say, you're staring at me.
Yeah.
Melissa seconded it.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes. Thank you, Martha. Anything else?
No, the only other thing is, I took care of filing that paperwork for the Gibson property, the CAUV and the recoupment. So that's with the auditor's office now. And that will not be processed, I think, until the end of the year. It's still current.
Okay. Perfect.
I also reached out to Charlie Gibson about the signage on that property and haven't heard back yet. So
Okay.
that's ongoing.
Thank you. I know that was a lot of work. I saw that application, so thank you for doing that. Okay, we had talked about hiring Brock 11 Consulting for the non-union employee contracts at the last work
Handbook.
session.
Handbook.
Sorry, not contract. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to hire Brock 11 Consulting for the purpose of review and propose changes to the non-union employee handbook at a cost not to exceed $550.
Do you still want the $550? They added tax on here, so
They
their
did.
subtotal was 500. You can make it 550. I don't care. I just wanted to.
I will talk to her again about the tax.
Oh, I'll get her our exemption. That's
Okay.
fine. I just didn't know if you still wanted the higher amount.
I think that that will give us a little leeway in case we go over. She said she's never had to go over, but
Alrighty.
that way we have a little window.
I'll give this exemption to Suzanne.
Thank you.
So
Can I
you
get
need
a second?
Second.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes. And I'm going to move right along. Motion to pay the Medina County Township Association annual membership for Catherwood, Asherle, Augustine, Swedek, Peterlin, and Wilson for a total of $260.
Second.
Seconded by Asherle.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes, thank you. We have scheduled a public hearing regarding the proposed map amendment change requested for the old Hinckley Elementary School located at 1586 Center Road, followed by a special meeting for discussion and decision. That will be on May 31st at 6:30 p.m. here at Town Hall. I just wanted to make you, the folks at home and people here tonight, aware of that. Comprehensive plan update. The next steering committee meeting is June 14th at 6:30. And when I was looking for the motion for the court reporter, I realized that on February 15th, we made a motion to hire her for 3 meetings, and we will actually have 4 on June 14th. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend the February 15th, 2022 motion to hire Northeast Court Reporting at a rate of $70 an hour and $5.50 per page to transcribe the 4 Hinckley Township Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee meetings.
Second.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes, thank you. That's a good catch every once in a while. Mailing of the surveys has happened. They went out last week. We have had a couple people, very few people, they're sitting here in the audience, say that they received 2 surveys in the mail. And so what we've encouraged them to do is go back and look at the envelope, because oftentimes people are reading current or owner/occupant, and they're not looking at the address and they're just opening them. And unfortunately, they're opening up a neighbor's survey that may have just been misdelivered. So we just ask that you do that when you're looking at your surveys. We have had a few people say that they haven't received them yet, that we're doing the best we can. It's in the hands of the post office right now, but the deadline to fill them out is May 27th at noon. Our offices are open. All the hours are online, but that week, specifically Thursday, we're here from 9 to 2, and Friday, May 27th, we're here from 9 to noon. So if somebody wants to drop them off, they have been doing that as well. You're welcome to just bring them in here. The Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony is scheduled for May 30th at 9 a.m. We will leave Our Lady of Grace Church promptly at 9 and come back here for the ceremony and donuts. And that is all I have.
And Jack's getting the donuts.
Jack's getting the donuts. Martha.
Just a fund status. Fund status is currently at $6,851,159.05. Pulled investments is $1,064,863.54. Available primary checking is $5,786,295.51. Just because it was a topic of discussion, the current amount in the fund for the fire department is $1,370,140.60. And I think August we'll be getting the rest of the American Rescue Plan funding. Likely. That's it.
Perfect. I'm going to ask anyone in the virtual audience who has a question to please raise their hand. This time I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills in a total amount of $67,515.25.
Second.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes. And do we have any questions from the audience before we move into executive session?
Yeah, we have one raised hand.
I'm asking you guys first. All right, Lisa, you can go ahead and have them unmute. Thank you.
Okay, the person whose number ends in 7220, you should be able to use *6 to unmute.
Hello, this is Jim Burns, 216 Lake Crest Boulevard. I have a question for Trustee Swedek. Trustee Swedek, what's the status on the Ohio History Connection sign grant that I presented to you in January? I've not seen anything in the minutes, and I'm wondering if you made that May 1st deadline for that grant.
I'm talking with them and Charlie Gibson as well.
Did you get something into the grant?
I'm working with them right now.
I thought there was a May 1st deadline. That's why I was curious.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Burns?
I didn't hear his response. It cut off.
No, you said you were curious, and I said, okay.
So you did not make the May 1st deadline. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I contacted them, and I'm working with them. Whether or not they accepted the application, that'll be up to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here that would like to speak? Okay. This time, we want to go into executive session?
Yep.
Take time for that.
What is it? 8:41?
8:37 p.m.
8:37.
Martha, I'd like to invite you to join us in there.
All right. Bye,
Bring it up
Jim.
on your phone.
Okay.
Oh, I could.
Make a motion to come out of executive session at 9:06 with no decision made.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Astral. Can you do a roll call, please?
Oh, all in favor?
Oh, I think you have to call
I
it for
think we
this.
have to call for
Oh,
executive
geez.
session.
Asherle?
Yes.
Swedek?
Yes.
Augustine?
Yes, and if there's nothing further from the audience, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 9:07 PM.
Second.
Seconded by
Now can I
Sweattick.
say
All in favor, say aye.
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 And was that an executive session in lieu of the one that was going to be tomorrow morning?
No.
No. There are minutes
they-
for you to
Are
sign.
they